Stathopoulos and Josh Phegan come together in an incredible podcast, Grow, Scale, Master.
An energetic approach to drive progress, master skills, build strengths and put the strategy back into rapid business and personal success.
Backed by real-world experience in rapid scaling to playing the long-term game of business, it's the story of all the lessons learned on the journey to mastery.
Be inspired, renew your energy and chase the future with Grow, Scale, Master.
Con, one of the great things, and I'm going to say something to you about like stages of growth, is that literally, you know what I found that people love to do is that they love to like identify with something and then say, yeah, no, that's me.
Yeah, label.
It says that they love a box.
Yeah.
They like being put in a box.
Yeah, we all do.
And then they like to find out how to get out of the box.
Yeah.
And this is interesting because when you think about it, there was a fascinating book. It was one of the best and written by a guy named Les McCohen, and it was called Predictable Success. And he had identified that there were some stages to business, right? And I use this all the time. It's a really great tool. It's like, you know what? Sometimes businesses are in early struggle. How do I make things happen? How do we get a customer? How do we produce income? Then you see businesses that move from early struggle, they're having fun. You know, things are good.
Yeah.
We're out and about. This is great. It's all exciting. And then all of a sudden, then the business hits white water. How does it all of a sudden keep up with that large amount of demand, or it can't get its stock, or it can't get people on board? And then all of a sudden it then hits predictable success. We do this, we get that, we do this, we get that. And then beyond that, you got like treadmill, so just going through the motion, and right. And then beyond that, then big rut, like, oh, is it the market? You know, because I'm down.
Yeah.
And then there's like death rattle. Literally business is over.
Yeah.
Now Sanity Music Stores, HMV, you know, all good examples. If you know Blockbuster, Video, like if you know any of those, then you're very old. But that's
I'm not very old. Just terms and conditions apply here.
The death rattle. But then think about it, predictable success. Bunnings Warehouse, Chemist Warehouse.
Yeah.
Basically anything with a warehouse in it. But what I want you to start...
Oh, we've got a great business idea, real estate warehouse. I've just trademarked that, people, so don't even try.
Don't do it.
But I totally get that.
So if you had a look at it, like sections of your business could, like you could say more broadly your business, where you at.
Well, I think we would rename probably... early struggle to survival.
Yeah.
And then probably, fun was probably...
Why can't we just use the names?
Well, I like mine better.
But if it's a universal principle...
No, I get what you're saying.
Because
yes.
like a new person is struggling. And
100%.
And what I love here, though, is that like predictable success is systems and people. And so what you got to start thinking about is I get the right systems in play and I teach my people and the people teach that. That makes a huge difference in how the business actually works. But what I wanted to get you to talk to us about in these stages of growth is about the power of models like this. So like when do you put on an operations person, when you put on a salesperson, when do you put on a sales manager,
sales manager,
when do you put on
a department head of PM, and
has that been really easily clear to just refer to a textbook, or you've had to work that out in your business modeling?
Yeah, definitely had to work it out because we had some limitations, which was predominantly early on in the days cash, and so we didn't have the ability to be able to invest in capital. But what we did do is invest in the future. Mm-hmm. So what I mean by that is we would look at it and go, okay, well, we technically don't need a sales manager because that was me. Yeah. My job when we had one office or two offices was me. But then when we had our vision, which we've spoken about in the last episode, which we're talking about, it was really clear and we could see the horizons. Well, we knew that we had to go and find people, and that's probably one of the hardest roles in real estate to fill. So I think for us, it was more about how do we balance these stages with trying to keep a business profitable whilst also trying to grow it at the same time. And sometimes the struggle is, do we have the right people in the right roles? Do we have the right, remunerations to be able to attract the best talent? How do we, give them upside in terms of career development and whatnot? But more importantly, where are we at in these stages as well?
So this is interesting because like you see people looking at inside of a property management business, and if you take the total revenue and then you minus the wages of the PM staff, they're actually having to put money in to pay the wages.
Yeah, well, that's why they're not looking at a wage to, portfolio income or ratio.
And so they don't realise that they're robbing Peter to pay Paul out of the sales division to keep PM going, and they haven't got the foot down enough on retention or growth.
Or growth, that's right.
To get that right. But also it's like they don't know, and the assumption is that literally that growth is always profitable, but there's different stages in that.
Yes.
And I think Macquarie Bank had done some benchmarking on this. It was like 300 800 or 600, and then maybe it was like 750 and then 920 and then like 1,100 were like the profit points. I've made all those numbers up, but like were the profit points because I actually have an understanding of, what's actually really worthwhile taking on as property management business. Like, where do you actually have margin and where do you not have margin?
Well, you know what's interesting with that, Josh, in our first probably 24 months, we sacrifice profit for growth of the asset. Mm-hmm. So if we're talking about property management, we're like, well, hey, if we could do 15 or 20 new managements net per month, at $6,000, that's $120,000. That's $1 million a year. Mm-hmm. So we don't really need the cash. Mm-hmm. What we need is the asset to reduce our LVR and to be able to give us more equity to go and borrow and, buy another rent roll or whatever. But I think, just going back to the stages of growth, I think businesses reflect the growth of the leaders in the business too.
Yes.
So, we spoke about, partners, and I think you mentioned that there was someone that kind of been sitting on the fence for 18 months.
Yes.
So I look at that's going to stunt growth.
Of course it is.
Because people are kind of being static, right?
Yeah.
So I look at that and I go, if we're up for growth, if you and I are up for growth and we want to go and take this business to another level, then the reality is that we will build out these stages organically anyway.
And here's the question though, is that level actually profitable?
Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. It depends what your driver.
But you might have a mid-stage.
Yeah, correct.
Is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
And that's where, if you haven't mapped it, you don't know.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying is it's not a linear thing where, I grow, revenue grows, profit grows. No, it doesn't happen that way.
So there's a thing of like mapping growth.
Yes.
Of like annual recurring revenue, ideally trying to exceed annual recurring expenses.
Yes.
To produce an annual recurring profit.
Yes.
But then you go and buy another 500 managements.
Yes.
You're going to be on another journey until you get back to that point.
Yes.
And so this is that's why we call them base camps.
Yes.
Because in the middle we're going on a journey.
Correct, which is exactly what we're doing. We're about to, look at two businesses at the moment, 920 managements. That will bring us to over 3,000. That changes our business.
Yeah.
It changes our property management business significantly. We're adding a third overnight.
Yes.
But we're also increasing our debt levels. But then we've got to have, now we've kind of done this multiple times. We can map out that growth stage and go, okay, well, we divert dividends for, 12, 24 months. We pushed out our LVR, but we get a sales business that's really profitable. And how do we actually grow that? So I think you're right. I think you do have to map it out.
Well, here's the thing. Get some expertise.
Yeah.
And this is interesting. I've got a black and white interview coming out shortly with a guy that bought 5,000 properties under management.
Wow.
And I think it's the largest outside of like the publicly listed run type stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's the largest individual private purchase of a rent roll in Australian history.
That'd be massive, yeah.
And definitely. So it's a big price point. And
20 million plus.
I said, how'd you do that? And he said, well, I already own 2,000. He goes, and that's what we did in the first 20 years of our business was pay the 2,000 off.
Right.
And so that literally that with the LVRs to go and buy the 5, bit of extra cash on the table for your extra asset basis of being in resi real estate. But he had a plan.
Yeah, correct.
And he was really good at executing that.
I think going back to what you said, go and get advice. Mm-hmm. So go and speak to other business owners, maybe in your network or people that you're friendly with. Sometimes, I had some random guy call me today.
Yes.
I shouldn't say that because he's probably listening.
Yeah.
But he just called me and just said, hey, I need some advice.
Yes.
Do you mind sharing? This is where I'm at in my career, etc.
Yeah.
You'd be amazed at how many people are happy to help you.
Yeah.
But then look at, a CFO or your accountant or whoever it might be that might be able to support you on that journey. More importantly, though, why are you growing? Mm-hmm. So what is it that you're trying to achieve? What's the ultimate goal? So sometimes people get addicted to growth because they think that that's exactly what they need to do. But I look at it and I go, well, our first 2 or 3 years was all about scale. Mm-hmm. So we could build a robust engine to be able to cater for it. And then now what it's been is about growing deep and wide, not just, how many more offices can we put on. So I think it's a really interesting exercise to do with your leadership team.
But I'd challenge that on the scale piece, it really is about setting strategic objectives for the long-term success of the business.
Yes.
So now that you've got the breadth, now you're going depth.
Correct.
And the conversation here is to start saying, what are the strategic objectives that would completely change your business? So what percentage of your revenue is one-off versus recurring?
Yeah.
What percentage of revenue is written by any one writer?
Correct.
What percentage of your revenue is done in off-plan versus resi sales?
Correct.
Versus commercial?
What part of our BDA, business development area, has a total addressable market of X, and why don't we have, representation in that area?
Do you think it's a worthy goal to build an enduring company that is able to exceed the lifetime of its founder?
100%.
But not every business is going to do that.
Yeah, I know. Well, not every business has that opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
But every business has the opportunity to change the lives of the people in them and around them and the people that they touch.
And was it the American, the Fortune 500? And there was only 3 out of the 500 are still there?
The good to great?
Yes.
Yeah, double-digit growth compounded over 10 years. Yeah, there is, yeah.
And some of them, completely re-engineered, like GE, for example.
Correct.
It was doing General Electrics, and then they ended up in finance.
That's right. That's exactly right. So I think the stages of growth, that's the exciting thing and the exciting opportunity about being in business. But also, let's take this down to the agent level as well. How exciting, the career path is you come in as an associate, you're either doing buyer work or prospecting, and then you get to, maybe start learning how to list or negotiate and get a deal done. And then, you become a standalone agent within a team or outside. Mm-hmm. And then you build your own team, and then you become a partner or go and open up your own office. I think that if you don't have a plan and that vision, then those stages of growth can become very confusing. Mm-hmm. And I've seen a lot of agents that have thought it's the best idea for them. By the way, I'm 100% biased on this, that it's the best idea for them to go and open up their own offices, and it's been the worst thing. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that, our model is the best. What I'm saying is what are you actually trying to achieve?
And what can the model actually grow?
Correct. Experiences that rapidly shaped you.
One of our great mentors and a very good friend, Nick Dowling, the chairman of Jealous Craig, he said to me in a recent conversation, he says, your direct 7 hires will determine all of your success as the CEO.
Yeah, wow.
And I just thought about that, who are your 7 direct reports if you're a CEO of an organization, and think about that, if you don't get the marketing right, or you don't get the operations right, or you don't get the hiring right, or you don't get the sales management or the property management or the infrastructure IT right, the business will go sideways.
Correct.
So it's really important to get that right.
Yeah. Ideas or experiences that are changing my view at the moment is I don't think we need more advice, more training, more coaching. Controversial, I know, with Joshy. I think we already have as much information as we can possibly have. We just need to actually do with what we've already got.
So the alternate view to that is to distill and to cut out a lot of and unlearn things, and to just focus on the 1 or 2 things in execution. But sometimes shining a new light or giving you a different perspective will give you renewed energy to execute that idea.
Absolutely right.
Something that's changing your view.
The one thing that's changing my view is actually about, does your organisation have a change management system? So if I went to the 7 direct reports to you in running your organisation, and I went to the wonderful Rach in Ops, or I had a great conversation in PM, and I just said, hey, what's the change management system in this business?
Yeah.
Would they be able to quantify what that actually is and what it looks like?
Yeah, probably not to your exacting standards and levels.
So, but I was just taking you through a keynote that I'm starting to build out for us.
Yeah.
And I'm taking my team through a change management on a particular thing. And it's okay, great. So what's the problem we're actually trying to solve? What's the positive vision for leadership agreement around that? Who's actually going to be impacted by the change? What are the action plans we're going to go and put in place? And then we're going to go and do it.
Yes.
And the amount of research and energy and effort to get to that point should hopefully land us that we land the project in record time, because of all the work that we're doing up front before we even begin to start the project.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm if you put up a type form and you said, okay, great, we're in a position that we're going to do X, what would that look like? And so let's take Super Saturday as an example.
Yeah.
What's the problem we're trying to solve? No revenue in January and February.
Yeah.
Slow momentum, issues with cash flow.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So what could we do? Okay, great. What's positive vision for the future? Get our agents back earlier, get people away from dead time of December.
Yep.
Trying to list, selling yes, but trying to list, move them to listing in late November and mid-November onwards to get plenty of listings ready for Jan. Okay, great. Who's going to be impacted? Auctioneers, marketing team, salespeople, HR, blah, blah, blah. Okay, great. What's our action plan to go and implement? Number 1, we're going to need a brand name for it. Number 2, we're going to need a website for it. Number 3, we're going to need to make sure we've got the auctioneers ready.
You should do this professionally. 4, and then, you're very good at this.
And they're voo, I just copied what you did. Voo, voo, voo.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right. I love that.
So inadvertently, you're already doing it.
Yes.
But do you teach the system on how to do it?
No.
And you should.
Yeah, we will.
But I think as a leader, that's about the change management process, so that whether or not how we're going to run a better training session, or how we're going to, put new doors in the training room in one of our offices, like whatever we're going to do, we need to make sure that it's really clear on process, right?
Agreed.